Okay, welcome to the City of Windom City Council meeting of November 1st. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For tonight's agenda, before the council, there is one item that I would like you to consider to add to the agenda, and that is in regards on a request by our liquor store manager, John Nelson, is to add a potential hiring for a part-time, non-union, part-time liquor store clerk. Is there a motion to place that on the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion Jim, second Jenny. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This evening, under the consent agenda, we have council minutes of October 18th and 25th, Park and Rec Commission, October 12th, Utility Commission, October 26th, license include exempt gambling permit, Windom Youth Hockey Association, December 14th, and the regular bills. Council action?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of adding the liquor store new hire.
Have it second.
Motion was made to approve the consent agenda, and seconded by Marv. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Department heads. Everybody's got a place on the agenda, I think, tonight that are here. So we'll continue. We'll ask our friends from Minnesota Department of Transportation up to the table here. And this is in regards to Trunk Highway 60 corridor striping discussion. And just please introduce yourself and your position with MnDOT.
Push that. Does that work? Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for having us this evening. Matt Thiebert, I'm project manager with MnDOT.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Nick Ulrich with MnDOT and the traffic office, traffic engineer.
And then I'll just give a quick brief info. As the mayor had mentioned, we're here at the request of the city to understand the feedback received from the council and other city staff on the recent resigning and striping at the south edge of town. That was implemented as a response to the new quick trip that went in there for the changes in traffic patterns associated with that new facility and the traffic that's generated from that facility and heading to that facility. I guess there's a number of questions I know that you guys have received that we'll kind of get into here today and let everybody give us an understanding. Really what we're here to do is to understand the concerns that you guys have received, understand what you're seeing beyond what we've experienced or what we've heard, and then take that back and understand if there's anything that we can bring to our management to discuss and further and provide some follow-up as well.
Okay, and with that, I think from this desk anyway, I would like to, well, thank you for coming. I think this is a very important topic, and I'm sure that we have people watching this evening from home. We did receive a number of emails to myself and some council members. They were included at the table for the council to see. You were also given a copy of that. I think that would be a good reference. I think you'll hear many of them same things through our discussion this evening. And I guess I would like to just make a few comments from myself, and I'll open that up to questions, comments from the council, if that's okay. Thank you. And I guess I wanted to start with, unscientific poll was put in our local paper. And of that, and Steve can send you those results, I'm sure too, but approximately 63% of the residents in Windom absolutely did not like the striping that was there, okay? Then there was I'll get used to it, which was roughly 25% or thereabouts, and then the balance of them were said, I like it. So I think that, spurred interest on a lot of people's part. We were hearing, comments throughout the public. We encouraged people to email myself or talk to council members. And many have done that, and we appreciate that. I also have one that it was not signed, but it's on my desk, that I will be sharing as well. Because there's some other comments that I think may be valid for you to see. So that correspondence and any other emails documented that the council has, please share with Steve, and he can get them to MnDOT, okay? From my perspective, I think the most serious thing or biggest concern is safety. I think that's everybody's intent, right? Is we want safe passage through our community, including not only the passers through, but our residents as well. And a lot of this discussion is not from the passers through, it's from our own residents that observe it on a daily basis. Farmers in our regional area that come to town with their semis, I've heard numerous comments from them on some of the merges, okay, very tight quarters on the merge as you go south from the intersection of 62 and 60. So I think, safety being, the number one thing. I think there's a lot of concern with snow coming. That is a comment that I've heard quite often. It's going to cover up everything that's there as far as the directional arrows that are in the pavement and whatnot without much warning or the adaptability to merge into that next lane. Speed limit coming from the south was another big concern I've heard. That being coming in from the southwest on 60 to Windom city limits is that it seems that the traffic is moving faster because it's 65 until you're around the curve. And it just seems like it's very fast coming up to where they will be merging or have to quick decide, okay, now I got to get back over to the right side and take my right onto 71. Businesses that are just outside of town have expressed concern that there's not enough time. These trucks thought, the quick trip turnoff is further away than I expected and would continue through that right lane into a striped area further north of the 7160 intersection and nearly getting hit. Now, a lot of my comments, regarding those that I've said and may add more, is that I had an idea, and I had ran this through the chief of police, as the city of Windom's getting a drone very soon. And the chief, he never gave me a commitment, so, and I'm pointing back there, assistant, but he never gave a commitment, but I thought it'd be a great idea to use a drone to get in the air and actually see what actually is happening during, not only the rush hours, but less peak times, all portions of the day. And in talking with Steve about this, it's probably that type of information is probably better left with MnDOT to consider, of video or drone or something of that nature to see what actually is happening within our community. So That is where I want to, I will stop. And unless you have any comments or questions back for me, I'd like to just pass that on to the council members. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay? Any interim thoughts on
I can
some of
address
that?
a few of those if this would be an okay time here. And just some of the high-level concerns, and yeah, we really appreciate the feedback here. That's why we're here. We want to hear how things are working. Is there anything we can take back and look at a little more closely and evaluate? The couple pieces that you mentioned, safety being a major concern, that's one of our that's part of our primary mission at MnDOT too. So we take that very seriously, and so hearing some of the concerns related to the north end where that taper comes in. Matt mentioned we've watched it a little bit in the field too, just to see how things are interacting, and that is one location where if you do have some cues at the traffic signal, when they all get released, there is that kind of jockeying that happens, and so those interactions are a little more complex than people are used to out there, and we do see that as being, you know, something that could result in some sideswipe crashes or things like that. So I guess if we could maybe wait to hear more from other council members too, but we can give the background on why that is where it is, given the constraints we had and the funding that was used for the project. But maybe I could save that piece for later. But just wanted to touch on speed real quick too. Coming into town, when we knew this project was coming through with the lane reductions to accommodate the quick trip development, we were planning to do a speed study afterwards as well, just to see if behavior's changed and if we need to change the speed limit coming into town. So we're planning to collect some speed data yet this fall, which would inform, you know, those speed locations and could result in some changes. So those are just a couple that I thought jumped out as, yeah, those are good concerns and things that, you know, we want to spend some more time looking at. But I'll maybe pause unless, Matt, you wanted to add anything else on there and hear some of the other council items too.
No, I think it'd be great to just see what everybody's hearing, see what other items the other council members have seen that echo the mayor's concerns, anything that builds upon those, and then we can kind of outline concerns as they come up, whatever we can answer here tonight, or we can follow up and provide some follow-up with city staff afterwards as well.
One additional item, sorry, council members, but this is not how I understood it to be striped and outlined at the beginning. My understanding was it was going to stop on the south side of the bridge. Okay, and I'm just curious on why it continued with up to the stoplight.
Yep, we can touch on that. That's a great point. We
Yeah,
can bring
touch
that
on
up.
that when you get to it, or do you want to do it now?
We can do it now, certainly, yeah,
Okay.
if that's okay. So yeah, where it is the intent was with the project, there's additional traffic that's coming to the new quick trip facility. And so with that was a need to extend the left turn lane. Now, the left turn lane, all the turn lane changes in that, the intent was to stay south of the bridge. Now, in order to safely develop the tapers to transition everything to what was needed for that left turn lane, where that left turn lane previously was, by extending it, it choked off the other adjacent lanes, and I can let Nick get into some of the more technical specifics of it too. But so in order to do that, all that work was going to take place south of the bridge. But in order to safely make those transition areas, that had to happen from an engineering perspective from the bridge north. The other thing we wanted to do is we didn't want to do that lane drop, so making it go down to one lane on the bridge surface for safety reasons. So with that being said, we wanted to make sure that that taper for that transition took place before the bridge came. So when you're getting in snow and ice conditions, you're not getting to that taper down to one lane where those two lanes are trying to get into that one space. So that's kind of the engineering judgment behind it. And Nick, I can kind of let you expand on some of
Yeah,
that.
I can expand a little bit on that too. So when we were looking at the information that Quick Trip provided related to the development, I think everybody that's in town here knows it's already pretty busy, and they provided some traffic forecasts to us. They provided information about the enhanced amenities, the truck stop, the convenience store, and with all that, that was going to generate more traffic. And we looked at the traffic volumes that Quick Trip was anticipating, their site need or drawing, and applied that to our guidelines for turn lane length. And so our guidelines looked at the speed in the area. It's 45 miles per hour at that location. Looked at the volumes that Quick Trip was anticipating in the ITE Institute of Transportation Engineers. They have a trip generation manual that kind of, for those types of facilities, how much traffic it would expect to draw. And then also looked at the truck percentage on the roadway. So as everybody knows, Highway 60 has quite a bit of truck traffic, so we made some adjustments for that too. Based on all that information, our recommendations based on MnDOT guidance was to have a turn lane of about 350 feet. And what was out there previously was, I think, in the ballpark of 150 with a kind of a short, quick taper. And from a safety perspective, with that added volume and added truck traffic volume, we did not think that was going to be adequate, and hence the need to extend that further north. What we ended up with, what we could accommodate was about a 340-foot left turn lane with a 100-foot taper. And so that seems to be working well, but that's part of the reason that pushed things further north. I guess it's kind of a three-stage question. That's stage one. Matt already mentioned on the bridge, we wanted traffic to be going straight or tangent across the bridge. We didn't want to have weaving maneuvers or shifting tapers on the bridge. For snow and ice, if that surface gets slippery, we don't want to have those kind of interactions happening on the bridge. And then north of the bridge, you'll notice as you're heading southbound, there's that taper, and that taper is at we use typically a 1 to speed rate, so it's 1 to 45 because it's mostly in a 45 zone. And so that's part of that length is the lane drop taper, and then also a shifting taper to move traffic over to make space for that left turn lane. So it's kind of three different pieces all working together that developed through the design of the project back last year, and that's really I think the why for why it ended up north of the bridge and where it's at today. And I guess additionally that, I think Matt mentioned it on the onset, but Quick Trip paid for over 90% of the project, and so we wanted to be act in good faith with Quick Trip and not have them pay for more striping than might be otherwise necessary.
Any volunteers from the council to go next? Marv?
First of all, I would just say that I believe that what was done to create a two-lane situation on the roadway out there was probably what you could do with the existing roadway. That being said, that just the timing of the striping with the timing of the striping and Quick Trip's grand opening was a little bit awkward, but we got through it. I, for one, appreciate the fact that you came all the way to 6th, because it gives everybody more experience prior to a complete project that runs through town. I don't believe we'd have got the comments we got if the striping would have started from the bridge beyond. So I think it's a good thing that you came all the way in. My first comment that I received, and I really didn't get many, was a concern about truck traffic leaving Quick Trip northbound with the incoming speed, and the semis have to get up. They have to get moving, and everybody's in the same lane. There's no acceleration lane. But obviously, that would take road construction to get that. So I understand why that wasn't done. I have the same concern about incoming speed when you have people pulling out of Quick Trip headed north and inbound traffic is going excessively fast. So you run up to those people coming out of Quick Trip pretty quickly. There was also a concern raised about there was not any left turn arrows at the light controlled intersections, and obviously that wasn't part of the project. But the thought is, if that doesn't happen, if the striping goes all the way through town and there's no left turn arrows, that left turning traffic is going to have a pretty difficult time, especially on the 10th Street. They're trying to go to Hy-Vee and that. It was also pointed out that at the 6th Street intersection where you brought the striping up to, there's an excessive amount of lane changing when you come up to the intersection because people recognize that that vehicle is going to turn left in front of them, so they jump over to the right lane, go across the intersection, and now they have to come back. And it creates a bit of a traffic hazard. As it's been said many times, Minnesota Nice does not apply to the zipper merge, and it's obvious that when you go across that intersection, that it's kind of a race out of town, and it doesn't seem like we want to take turns getting out. So that's an issue. My personal conclusion, and this is a change. I was kind of for the striping, but the striping going to 2 lanes isn't going to solve our traffic issues going through town, in my opinion. Windom's still better served with 4 lanes, with the 2 roundabouts on the Highway 6071 intersections. Adding the left turn arrows at the controlled intersections and maybe including a light controlled intersection at 16th Street is an improvement for safety. But that's kind of the comments I got. So, and thank you both for coming.
Thank you for having
Appreciate
us.
it.
Anything there you'd like to respond
I'm trying to think if I took down a lot of notes here. And,
Yeah, this is all
Yes.
this is all really good feedback. I guess a couple of pieces there related to turn lanes through town, and that's some of the interactions that I've watched at the Highway 60 and 62/6th Street intersection too. Is that with the shared through left and the shared through right, there is some lane changing in advance of the signal, and then there's lane changing afterwards too. And you kind of spoke to the benefits of having a dedicated left turn lane. Everybody can get into that left turn lane, and we could, there could be potentially signal phasing to help that too. But then everybody knows that they're turning left, and then that through lane just, then traffic is more orderly, it just operates more safely. And with that, if we had kind of a 3-lane configuration there, then that would allow for that more safe and efficient traffic. And our typical practice would be if we had that center left turn lane through town, we would have arrows associated with that. So I guess that was just kind of one piece, and it stuck out to me too that at that 6th Street, in particular at the 6th Street intersection, there could be some improvements in terms of how traffic is ordered through that intersection if we had just a dedicated left and then 1 through lane through the intersection.
And that was a good anecdote to note too, that there's a concern with the truck traffic leaving Quick Trip heading northbound and the fast oncoming northbound traffic that's coming up on them. So that's a good observation to understand that when we're looking at that merge, that's a different component that's happening kind of in the middle of the operation.
Thank you, Marv, for them good comments. Jim, looks like your flasher's on.
Yeah, I haven't heard a whole lot, and thanks again for coming. But what I've heard has mostly been about signs. If there would be more signs, it might help a lot. But then my wife, she had to get into it, of course, says, we have a very, very busy hospital here, and a lot of ambulances coming and going from both directions. And that was one of her main concerns. What's going to happen when they're going to switching out there and there is nowhere to switch to?
Who would like to volunteer? Jason?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts too. A couple thoughts that came to my mind, and things I've heard some things about this striping. One is it seems, based on input and my own thinking too. It seems a little contrived to try to squish everything in and all these changes. I know you have protocol and certain things that have to follow other things and distances and angles and all that stuff, but it just seems too contrived in that short space that we're trying to squish all this change into, what is it, a quarter mile or so, excuse me. And so I had a couple thoughts. One is maybe rethinking and moving it back south up the highway a spell to make these initial changes. I know that if you look at the road, it's not a straight lane all the way through, and that's going to be a problem in bad weather, of course. It's a problem in good weather, rainy weather, big trucks and stuff. I know that one of the MnDOT people said that the theory or psychological aspect is keeping a narrow lane so it slows up traffic and stuff. But we have a lot of wide vehicles that go through, obviously trucks and other things that have to have a little bit more room on the sides. And I think that would, I don't know if it's in our best interest to cut down, because we have so much road, yet we have a lot of empty space, especially in that section that got restriped. A lot of empty space. And I understand, obviously, the concern about the bridge, not making changes on the bridge. That's not what I would propose at all, but it seems like it's maybe forced a little too much, and that rethinking and backing it off and transitioning farther back, maybe another 300 to 500 feet, I don't know, would help immensely. And if we can keep a straight line all the way through town. Another thing is too many changes in too short of a length of road. There's a lot of changes. I've driven on that stretch many, many times since it's been restriped, and that was one obvious thing that stuck out to me, is just too busy indeed. And there's not a lot of nuance when it comes to the actual way it's striped. It just felt like it could have been, I think it's because it's in too short of a run, that if it's elongated, then that would allow for more nuance. So.
Thank you. Lisa, are you volunteering?
I just know that I heard from a few people, and most of it was basically the fact that we had waited so long for there to be 4 lanes all the way to Mankato, and now we've basically condensed it to 2. So it's just a lot of wasted space, and I just haven't really had any good feedback about it.
Thank you, Lisa. One other thought here. Are there any other communities, you've heard a lot about, getting down to 3 lanes, but have you did this in any other communities with success of going from 4 lanes to 3 lanes?
We have actually, in the city of Laverne on Highway 75. It's kind of the north-south road that runs through town, connects to I-90. It's US Highway 75. Excuse me, sorry. And previously it was a 4-lane section, kind of similar to downtown Windom. We restriped that to a 3-lane section with just 1 lane in each direction, dedicated left turn lanes at certain locations, and then 2-way left turn lanes at others through town. I don't have the traffic volumes right offhand to know how comparable that is to Windom, but we did hear similar concerns about traffic operations and how that might function. A study was conducted in town there, and given the volumes, it has been working pretty well for them since then. And again, it gets back to that providing an more orderly or a better organized way of allowing traffic to flow through town, and then those left turn lanes to get turning traffic out of the main line through traffic adding that safety benefit of having the left turn lanes and allowing for, in some cases, shorter crossing distances for pedestrians, bicyclists, things like, folks that are trying to get across the trunk highway through town there. So I think that one, and initially the community had some concerns about that there as well, but it's been largely positive since that change has been made.
Okay, thank you. And follow-up question that I would have is, I believe our traffic count is quite a bit higher than 75. I have no doubt in my mind it's like an interstate through here. And I can tell you one that I do like is St. Peter. The traffic, I think, flows freely through St. Peter. And I believe they may have 3 stoplights. It's 4-lane all the way through town with a turning lane in the center on some major intersections, I believe. I do like St. Peter's. Jenny?
Okay, well, I'm guessing I probably got the most feedback because I'm on social media and I'm out and about in the community often. I've been on the council 4 years. And when I first started on council, our big heated topic was we were looking at putting an apartment complex out by the lake in town. And we had a lot of people that were having feedback and concerns about that. Of my 4 years, that's been the biggest topic that I ever had feedback on. This striping and the road, this has far exceeded the comments that I got on the apartment complex. I can't believe how many people, you can hardly go in the grocery store, somebody's stopping you. I've just walked down, around the square downtown, somebody's stopping me. Emails, phone calls. I went to my doctor and I had a nurse stop me and talk to me, not my nurse, but a different one, just all sorts of different places. So I've had lots of feedback, but I think it all comes down to everybody's very concerned about safety. I think the most things were just like we've kind of already talked about. I don't think there's anything real new on my list, but just to go over at the stoplight going out of town, how that merges over so quickly. There is a business out there too that's noticed, the honking of horns, the squealing of tires, the near misses that they've seen just from their perspective being, right on that corner, that area. I've heard a lot of people kind of talk about, I don't know, was it Norm or Marv that was saying Minnesota nice, that people have seen more like road rage type, people honking their horn or making gestures and those kind of things that these people have never seen happen before in Windom. And I'm hoping it's not our local people, maybe it's just people passing through town, but just more of that kind of stuff, people not knowing where to go. And then if people are turning, into McDonald's and then they're backing up traffic, like they already said, they're trying to go around so then they can get back into the other lane again. If they're trying to get into the liquor store or some of the other businesses, it's backing up traffic there. I think the big concern that I talked about when you guys first got here, we talked a little bit, was going down towards Quick Trip, that there's the turn lane that some people are thinking this is the turn lane I need to merge into to get to Jackson. And then they all of a sudden realize, oh no, this is the Quick Trip turn lane. And now there's striping there, so now I have to jump back over into the one lane, and then, oh, now here's my turn to Jackson. So they're weaving in and out, and maybe at that last minute, realizing they're not really in the turn lane anymore, they're not looking to see that there's traffic that they're merging back into to the right. So it's just, causing some confusion, some chaos. People saying that once the snow comes and the roads are covered, it's going to be difficult to see that striping, and people may revert back to, thinking there's 4 lanes again. Or people that don't frequent through town as often, that haven't experienced knowing that the lanes are like that. There's not really signage, if the road is snow covered, that they're going to know where they should be driving and where they shouldn't be driving. So I think suggestions about arrows, signs, those kind of things I've heard. I've also heard about backed up traffic at the stoplight, that people that normally frequent back and forth in that area, that normally one red light and they can get through, are having to wait for 2 red lights because they're backed up so far to get through town there. So they're like, I've never had to wait for 2 red lights in Windom to get through, which, you know, I mean, people from a bigger city, you know, definitely they understand that kind of wait, but in Windom, people just aren't used to having to wait for 2 red lights to get through town. Let's see, what else do I have? I did have a couple people that expressed, and I know there's probably not a whole lot we can do with the reasoning by Subway, putting in the little triangle thing by Subway that you can only take a right in and you can't come out and take a left. But there have been some concern, you know, that semis like to turn in there so that they can go up that service road to get to park outside of Hardee's on the service road. And when semis try to take that, to make that turn, they're actually going over, and I think you can see there's some tire marks and stuff on that little triangle piece because they can't quite make it. Semis can't, you know, make it through there, but yet they're still trying to get to Hardee's. But then they say, you know, if we went all the way up to right at Hardee's and then turned in and came back down the service road the other way, then they're like, we can't get out because we can't come down and you can't, you know, turn out at that place. So they'd have to go up and around through a residential neighborhood to get back around the backside of Hardee's to come back to get on the highway. I mean, if you're following. I'm not good at my directions. You can follow that loop. So they're kind of like, so we may be losing some business at Subway, Godfather's, Hardee's with truck traffic and grain haulers and things like that that can't get in that direction. And just some people that live in that area too that are so used to, and so now they're going out, taking a right, going down the road, and then having to make a U-turn, you know, to come back in, and then traffic isn't knowing that they're trying to make a U-turn, and there's some congestion on knowing who's going which direction. And then again, just that high rate of speed coming into town from the south, saying maybe that should be reduced, or, you know, some more posting of reducing, or knowing that people are merging. And then I think the other concern that was talked about too is just how long you have to wait when you're in Quick Trip to get out of Quick Trip and take a right to come into town, that people are backed up in Quick Trip during kind of Quick Trip's, you know, busier times, which seem to be every time I go to Quick Trip, they're busy. So I don't know when their lull is. But it seems to be you have to wait, you know, cars are lined up to take that right, because when traffic is coming into town and they are going fast, people don't feel safe, you know, pulling out and making that turn because you're merging right into that fast coming traffic into town. I think that is all my things. Thank you very much for coming and listening to us and listening to concerns, though, and, you know, taking that into consideration.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to point out that the chief of police, and Corey, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the probably number one concern was the speed limit coming in from the south, is what I was told anyway. So, okay. And Steve, you're in the city a lot and around visiting with a lot of people. Questions, comments that the council missed?
I don't necessarily know if there's anything you missed on asking the questions. Pretty much the same comments, questions of, you know, that you've expressed here. Some of them, you know, just kind of the planning process might, you know, would maybe be a little bit different. Is, you know, I think I talked with Matt a little bit, and you raised it earlier. You know, we were kind of under the impression it was going to come from the bridge south, and then so why did it come north? And there was a little bit of, I think, miscommunication or lack of communication, maybe between the city and MnDOT. I think as Matt and I talked, you know, it was last May of 21 when we talked about this, and then in September of 22, hey, we're going to be in town next week doing striping. There really wasn't any communication in between or plans exchanged there. So that was part of the disconnect, I think, on some of this. You know, if people would have known, hey, this is going to change, we'd had the opportunity to express some of this earlier, might have helped. You know, so now we're playing catch up a little bit on it and being a little more reactive maybe than we needed to be. But that's, I guess, the only other comment or aspect that we hadn't fully talked about, so.
And I'm just gonna go, looking ahead is, to me, I think it's evident that serious consideration should be given to a large roundabout on 6071 South, is what I'm looking at. And I asked the gentleman prior to the meeting, and I know it's budget related, and just as we have our CIP plan, so does MnDOT. But if there was an early out type thing, I think that'd be one area that an early out would benefit. But I may be wrong, probably, but I think that would benefit. I think it would take a lot of the burden off of the south part of town. But
Matt, did you guys want to go over any of the plan sheets? Or
If
did we
there's
kinda
any
cover that
specific
discussion?
questions where council or the mayor would like us to point to something, that we can use as a resource here.
Just a question about the mayor's mention of the roundabout. When you exit Quick Trip and you want to go southbound on Highway 68 to Worthington, would you enter the roundabout? Because where the exit currently is for Quick Trip probably doesn't line up with where the roundabout would be. So to me, it looks like that exit has to move to coordinate with the roundabout so that you can jump in the roundabout and go to Worthington. But
Yeah, I would anticipate if it's in the next project or whenever, if there's something that occurred like that, there would probably have to be larger changes that would take place to tie everything together, because like you said, there's going to be limitations that the way the geometry works would probably require additional configuration of that area. Nick, if there's anything you want to add.
No, I think that's a good point. Looking at how those accesses between the 71 intersection and the river, I know that was part of the consideration with the study, but that would be something to look at with the future project. But for that particular movement, someone leaving Quick Trip, if they were headed towards Worthington, they could turn right onto 71 and then enter that. If there's a roundabout at 60 and 71, that'd be an option there.
sure, it'd be like no left turn out of the Quick Trip. Okay. Any other final comments, questions? I know we appreciate you hearing our comments.
Absolutely.
You know, and like Jenny said, this is something that has the community worked up quite a bit. You know, and if there's, I know that you mentioned maybe you could go back, talk about some of these things, maybe have a follow-up, come back and visit with the council in a 45, 60 days or something like that.
Maybe in winter then, so.
Yeah, it's gonna be in winter then, and maybe you'll have other, maybe you'll wanna act sooner, I don't know. But, you know, we'd appreciate that, if we could get a follow-up to some of our thoughts, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. What Nick and I have both been jotting down quite a few notes as growing tonight. We'll sit down with our management when we get back, kind of give them a run through of what you have received as a council, mayor, what you've received, what city staff has received, kind of run through that, and then kind of think about ideas for moving forward from there. So, like we talked about, winter's fast approaching, so talk about things over the winter and just see what would be some things we can talk about, for some opportunities.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing real quick, as everybody's talked about safety and just knowing where that merge is happening. And it sounds fairly easy to do, or maybe it doesn't work, I don't know. You guys are the traffic engineers, but just have some signage further to what's called to the northeast that says merge ahead, 1,000 feet or something like that. That's, maybe further to, into the corridor, so that drivers are seeing that sign, maybe, just south of the 10th Street, intersection in there, maybe by Town and Country or someplace saying, 1,000 feet ahead, 500 feet ahead. So when you get to that stoplight, if you know you're gonna have to be merged, you know, then maybe that would give at least a cue to the driver, and that would be something fairly easy and simple to do, if that works. I know you guys have regulations and rules on where signage can go and how much and all that kind of thing, but that's just a thought, so.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback, Steve, and we'll take a look at that. There's a few other key locations, just hearing some of the concerns that we want to look at, maybe signage a little bit more closely and see, you know, we kind of have to operate within the manual on uniform traffic control devices, so there are things that's kind of our governing document. So we'll have to operate within that, but there might be some opportunities to improve, and I think some of those key locations, we'll take a look at those.
I was just wondering if truck traffic, and I answered my own question, keep truck traffic in the center 2 lanes, except you're gonna have a heck of a backup and stoplight. So that's not gonna work. Anyway, once again, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming down, and we'll look forward to talking again.
Sounds good. We'll follow up. I'll
Okay.
get some of these questions
Thank you.
answered and then reach out to Steve to follow up in a couple months.
All right,
Yeah,
Thank you,
for the
Matt
time.
and Dick.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a resolution accepting a donation, PEO, Sister Chapter Police Canine Unit. This is a donation of $15 from PEO. And we appreciate that. Help feed the dog, I'm assuming. So appreciate that. Is there a motion, or this will be a resolution to accept?
I'd introduce that resolution to accept a donation from PEO Sisterhood Chapter to the Windom Police Department for $15.
I would second.
Resolution introduced by Jason, seconded by Marv. Any discussion? I will ask for a roll call.
Nelson,
Yes.
Grunig,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Farag,
Yes.
Quaid.
Yes.
Next item is the City Hall roof repair quotes and award. We would like to award this. We were very happy with the quote you got, Steve. So do you want to just give us a lowdown and what your request is?
Sure. I'd like to thank Andy Spielman for getting this information together. He contacted the companies to obtain the quotes. So we had a preliminary quote for re-roofing the City Hall project. As you know, we had a leak here last year, destroyed copier and some other items. So we had budgeted $62,000. The council had in a prior year, but because of inflation and whatnot and pricing had shot way up, we didn't execute that because we didn't have enough funding in it. So we went out for proposals again a second time in this calendar year. We had 2 that came in. The one that's in your packet is the low quote from Schwickert's for just short of $90,000. We had, as I mentioned, we had 62 in the CIP fund. During the budget discussion, we had allocated some dollars for City Hall or City Council Chamber renovation, which included the new video system. We did that through CARES Act as part of that, so the council was going to move over the $30,000 that we had previously allocated for the council chambers into the roof fund. That will give us $92,000, and I said that, as I mentioned, this quote is just under 90. Gives us a little wiggle in case there's some time material stuff, if they find some bad insulation. So our recommendation is to accept the quote from Schwickert's in the amount of $89,663. And then they can do the work yet this fall with the nice weather. So if we approve it today, we'll sign it, get it off to them, and get it going hopefully this month.
Any questions for Steve? Very good due diligence on checking the price out this year. Is there a motion to approve the contract with Schwickert's as mentioned and discussed by Steve?
I'll make that motion to accept the bid by Schwickert.
Second.
Motion is by Lisa, seconded by Jason, to approve this contract. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's get the roof repaired. Okay, next we have Street and Park Department 2023 CIP request. And we heard a little bit about this at at our budget meeting. So John's here to ask us for some approval, maybe?
John Ketzelberg, Street and Parks Superintendent. Yes, I would like a new truck, please. Little backstory and everything. Electric Department ordered a truck in 2020 with the COVID and everything. It didn't quite pan out, and they purchased the state contract due to the issues with supply chains. That purchase was canceled by the state. So the electric department worked with several other dealers, found one on a lot, bought it, and then come to find out that the dealers got this truck laying around. So between me and the water department, we're both looking for trucks. So the water department doesn't think it's got a long enough bed. So I guess if everything works out and you guys approve, I'll take it.
And maybe to mention that you had a request on the CIP for 3 trucks, and you're gonna be happy with one, the way I understand it.
No, wrong answer. Dump trucks. We got 3 dump trucks coming for the plowing the streets. This is a pickup.
But I did see 3 pickups in there in the next couple of years, so,
True.
okay. Okay, and I think that, my understanding is that truck that's sitting on the lot could be sold many times already. And so if we want to take advantage of about a $4,000 or $5,000 deal on a state contract bid, we should do that. Council thoughts or questions for John? Hearing none, and I'm gonna ask Steve, this is forward funding, is the CIP?
That'd be correct, it'd come out of your 2023, the dollars that we're talking about, that I'd sent you the worksheet on, and so this would be forward funding that, yes.
Okay, and the purpose of that is we just want to make sure that that item, if approved tonight, will be in the CIP for sure. And I think it's with cost savings, I hope the council goes forward. Council wishes.
And there's also the trade-in value, which is estimated at what, John?
Well, the dealership gave us 4,000 and did a bunch of research on there. I got a total vehicle that has a salvage title and everything, and they got 8,000 on that. And then looking around at a few other ones and everything, there is another one that's got 178,000 on it, and they got 16,000 on that one. So, and that one's about the same condition with a little rust around the wheel wells and everything else. So I'm thinking 10 to 12, no problem, if we put it on auction and something else like that. And with what I got with budget, as long as I do not have any big breakdowns, and knock on wood, I should have a little bit left in my budget so we can kick into the kitty.
Are we gonna declare that surplus to give you authorization also, or do that at a later time, or what are you thinking? To sell?
We'll do that at a later time.
I'm just saying, don't put a lot more miles on it prior to, get it off the
He's not,
use.
he's not driving to Oklahoma to pick up a trailer, so,
All right.
to keep it in town, John.
Okay. Is there a motion to pre-fund the CIP and to accept the quote of, where's it from? Marthaler's? Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve the truck purchase based on the financing.
I'll second that motion.
Motion Marv, second by Lisa. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And that carries. Thank you, John. Anything else tonight?
Thank you, council. You guys have a good night.
Okay. How's, are the leaves, are you street sweeping?
Yes, we're still street sweeping and everything, so if you got a pile of leaves in front of your vehicle, please move it to the other side of the road or put it in your driveway or something. We did have a couple of complaints of some people wondering when we're gonna be sweeping and why we haven't swept their street, and going to look at it and checking on the complaints because their car's parked on it. So, if you want your street swept and everything else, be courteous, don't park in the same spot. Same with the snow and everything else that's gonna be coming up. There'll be stuff in the paper coming up soon. So if you got snowbirds and everything, don't park right back in the same spot, because we'd like to clean that up for you so you guys don't trip and fall and the town looks good.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, very good. Windom Alternative Learning Center, Southwest West Central. We have a memo of understanding. And Steve is quite familiar with this. I'll let you tell us what it's about in short.
Okay, in short, the city's had a relationship with the Southwest West Central Co-op for a handful of years, doing some community policing efforts. It was born out of the need to try to reduce some of the calls out of that facility. And so Chief Peterson came up with a plan to do some community policing. We worked with the Southwest Western Co-op and Alternative Learning Center. And the first year, that proved to be pretty beneficial. They reduced calls by quite a bit. In order to get a little bit of payback on our side on it, we had asked the Southwest Co-op for a bit of a stipend. We did that for a couple of years, and then when COVID hit, they had classes, didn't have classes, that kind of thing, so that amount got reduced. Now they're back they're in Windfair now, and a little bit of an expanded program. And so we met with them before the school year this year and said we'd kind of like to go back to the original, a little bit more time out there doing some community policing. And they totally agreed and supported it. And so we pulled back together our stipend agreement, and this calls for $14,000 a year for the next 2 years and next two school years. And Southwest Co-op had approved it, and so we're asking for your approval on this evening.
Steve, is there any significant difference from what's been established?
No, the days remain the same from what it was pre-COVID. The time commitments, the visits, they are random. They're by PD. We only have to do so many hours per the school year. There's 180 to 185 contract days. We have, I think, 200 to 225 is the number of hours. So it's about a little over an hour a day, more or less, that someone goes out, walks through. Maybe if they miss a day, it might be there a little longer another day, type of thing. But it's very well received by the administration out there, the staff out there. PD has seen the benefits of it, and I think Scott kind of enjoys going out there once in a while and seeing the kids. So.
Well, because Scott enjoys going out there, we will take action on that. Is there a motion to approve the, you're right,
I'll make the motion.
thank you.
Second.
Motion made by Jim, second by Jason, to approve the, I believe it's a memorandum of agreement. Okay. And any discussion? I think it's, from what I've heard, very beneficial for both parties, our police and the students, and good communication. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing with the students there. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, yes, I've seen it firsthand. It has been very positive, the interactions. It's good for some of these kids who have been in trouble with the law to have a positive interaction with someone from the law. So I really appreciate that.
With that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have the second reading, ordinance 195, second series, establishing city council salaries. Once again, that information, no changes since the first reading. Would you like Steve to review the numbers for the council? Yes, I'm getting a nod.
Okay, as we discussed at the last meeting, during budget discussion, we brought up the during the mayor council budget session, we talked about what the stipends or salaries were for the council members. They'd been in place since 2007, so for the last 15 years. And so what it is surveyed a number of area communities, as you know, communities vary in complexity, size, and that kind of thing. I got 15 responses back, and what we did is looked at what the per capita averages were for mayor and council of those 15 cities, and then applied that towards our population, and that's where we came up with the numbers for the council salary change. And we discussed this at council meeting, or at the budget meeting, and at the last meeting. So the mayor's salary would go from $4,600 to $6,900. Council member salaries from $4,000 to $5,300. We kept the $700 technology stipend, as all the packets are electronic. The website contains a number of materials. Obviously, you got your electronic communications. So that was kept. That $700 every 2 years gets paid out to pay for laptops, computers, printers, whatever you do. That's on the responsibility of the council members to have that. And then there's a $50 special meeting stipend if there's additional meetings called. So those are the 3 or 4 things in the ordinance.
Any questions? Jason?
Just want to make a quick comment. Jenny pointed this out too earlier, that it has been quite a while since the salaries of council members was even considered. It's been, I think, 17-ish years, so it's about the right time.
Thank you. This would be our final action from the city council. And this is by ordinance. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Jim made the motion to approve, and Jenny seconded this. Ordinance number 195, second series, an ordinance of the city of Windom, Minnesota, amending City Code Chapter 32, Section 3202, entitled Salaries of Mayor and Council Members. Any final comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have, for next year, a resolution designating an annual polling place. And this is by resolution. This is for 2023. Everybody understand that? Okay.
Required by statute.
Required by statute, Steve says, and I believe him.
I would introduce the resolution designating the annual polling place.
Second.
Resolution introduced by Marv, second by Jason. Any questions from the council? That's at the Windom Community Center. Do I need further description, Steve? Okay, seeing none, we'll ask for a roll call.
Quaid,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Gruenig,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Farig.
Yes.
And that resolution carries. Okay, the next item is the mayor appointment. This might seem strange, but we're going to appoint Dan Ortman with the term expiring 4/30 of '24. This is something that I forgot, we forgot, we missed doing this in April. So just to make sure that Dan is officially and properly appointed, we'd like to take action on that tonight. And that is a recommendation for reappointment. Well, yeah, motion.
I will make the motion to reappoint Dan Ortman to the hospital board.
Okay, that motion by Lisa, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. personnel recommendation, police officer hiring. Corey's here. He's gonna tell us all about this. And information was included in your packet.
Corey Hillersheim, Assistant Chief of Police. In front of you, we have a recommendation of hiring Mr. Austin Lasky. He is a 2020 graduate from Hibbing. Currently, right now, he is employed part-time by Westbrook Police Department and is full-time Redwood County Sheriff Jailer. So this has been a long time coming. We've been short since July, so we're glad that this day is finally here. But he has met all requirements, passed everything he needed to pass. He's ready to go.
And what is the start date as of
Tomorrow?
tomorrow? Sounds good to me. And this will get you back to full staff?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Council concurrence?
I approve.
Was that the motion? Okay, thank you, Jim.
Second.
Second, Jason. Any discussion? We appreciate you going through everything, making sure everything was in order with all the candidates that we've had, so appreciate that. I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Awesome,
Any
thank
other
you.
comments?
Looking forward to working with him. Which council will get to meet him here once we do all that stuff, so swearing and all that, so.
Don't
Very good.
introduce him, don't introduce him to the highway patrol.
Don't plan to.
Okay, next, we have the council added to the agenda that John gets to come and ask for some part-time help at the liquor store. John?
Correct. Thanks again for adding this to the agenda tonight. We've been advertising for about the last month. We received 2 applicants over that time. One we don't feel meets the requirements to work for us. This one came to us yesterday morning. A current employee recommended to him that he apply for our store when he was looking for a second job. So took advantage of interviewing him and with my senior lead clerk, and we both feel he would be a valuable asset to the team. We've been fighting short staff for a while. Last time I was here, I had 4 hiring recommendations in front of you, and I am left with one of those hirings. So we've been running short just because it's been hard to get new employees. So I'm recommending to you the hiring of Christopher Simonson at $11 an hour with $11.75 6-month review wage increase if he meets our standards. That does fit the non-union part-time wage scale approved by the Windom City Council. Should not affect any budget hours due to its covering normal operations.
Council action?
I'll make the motion to hire Christopher Simonson for the part-time liquor store position.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, second by Jason, was it? Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that hire? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thank you. I did not jump up here during department heads, but just to remind you all, next Friday is our annual wine tasting event. We keep making it a better event, so this is one you don't want to miss.
Where's that at?
At the Windom Community Center, it'll be next Friday, November 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. $20 admission, and we have 19 tables of vendors coming. Last year we had 15, so we've added 4 more. I have 2 breweries coming, 1 distillery, and then a lot of our vendors will be making some sort of wine cocktail as well at their table. So it'll be a fun event this year.
So do we have local wineries that take part in this too?
We do have 4, almost 5 of our local wineries. Curry, Painted Prairie, Round Lake will be there. We also have Morgan Creek Vineyards out of New Ulm, Indian Island from over by Waseca, Chankaska Creek will be there. They're from Kasota, between Mankato, and then other vendors do carry Minnesota wines and other favorites. So
I'm sure some of us at this table won't miss it. Jenny, you're not smiling. All right. Thank you, John.
I have a question. You're doing that on the 11th?
correct, the 11th, Veterans Day.
You got people to work it?
Of course, I got people to work it.
John will be there. Okay. Next, we have new business. Anybody have any new business tonight? Steve, anything new? Old business? Once again, I just want to comment, I appreciate MnDOT coming down. I think that was some good discussion, good comments from council members. I appreciate that. And I think we will put a note on our calendar, Steve, in about 40 days to give them a call and see when they want to come back with any responses they may have. Maybe we'll already see some changes because of some of the questions. Maybe not. So, good work on that, council, getting that message out. We did get quite a few comments from the public. Council comments. Lisa, you get to go first tonight.
I will just go off of what John was saying about the wine tasting at the community center. Last year, it was a really good time, good turnout, and I think it would be a terrific date night for anybody because it's very affordable. Go out and test all of the drinks, and then there's, some hors d'oeuvres, snacks, things. But it's just great to get out and you run into so many people that you know, and it's, like I said, very affordable.
Good point. Jenny?
I don't have a whole lot tonight. It was really nice. The weather was perfect for trick-or-treating, so it was really nice to see a lot of people out. I know my street is a very busy street, and so we saw a lot of ghosts and goblins and all sorts of trick-or-treaters come by. So it was just very nice to see people out and families get out and interact and, that kind of stuff. So hopefully maybe some nice weather continues for a little bit longer so everybody can get their leaves raked and yards ready, and the snow's going to come whether we like it or not. And I also, like to thank the DOT for coming down. I think, coming down here knowing that it was probably going to be a difficult conversation, difficult things that they were going to hear, that we didn't have a whole lot of positive maybe to put their way, but they still came down and had a smile on their face and seemed to appreciate the feedback. We'll see where it goes from there. Hopefully we'll see maybe some positive things, but I like to thank all the people that reached out and gave emails, phone calls, and I'm perfectly fine with stopping me on the street or wherever you see me. I always welcome any kind of feedback or comments people have, so don't feel like you're imposing. If I'm grocery shopping, I will take a few minutes and talk to you, not a problem.
Thank you. Jim?
Being John brought it up, the 11th, I guess I want to take this time to thank approximately 2% of the total population of the United States who have given their time, a lot of them their lives, for this country and for the veterans. I really have a lot of admiration for those people that are still doing it in these tough times.
Thank you, Jim. Marv?
Just remind everybody to go vote in the upcoming election and see if we can get some of those commercials off of TV.
Jason, how can you beat that?
I can't. I'm not going to try. Hey, I am extremely grateful for people like my grandfather who served in the U.S. Navy and all the other family members that we have that have served in the armed forces. And someday in the future, even Space Force. So very thankful for that. It was really nice to see all the children. We had over 200 children come by our house. But a lady I work with, she had to beat that. She had over 300 that came to our house. But we're really great. It's a great community action. Lots of great costumes and just adorable children just walking around, and my own daughter dressed as Moana, and she got into the festive mood too. So great to see. Have a great week.
Thank you, Jason. Steve, anything tonight?
Marv took my remember to vote on November 8th at the Windom Community Center for those of you that live in town, and also thank you to the veterans. My father was a veteran, served in the Korean War, and so certainly do appreciate all those folks and the people that are currently serving.
And I would encourage the public to thank the veterans that they see out and about on their streets here in Windom, Minnesota, and thank them and all their peers for their service to the country. So with that, I think we're concluded for tonight. We'll be adjourned by unanimous consent.